Today we're going to continue talking about factoring. So to review, we always want to look for the greatest common factor first. Our leading coefficient should be positive, and then we can factor using our guess and check method. So just a reminder, when we're thinking about our standard form of a trinomial, it's this ax squared plus bx plus c. So when I say a, I'm talking about the coefficient of x squared. When I say b, I'm talking about the coefficient of x, and when I say c, I'm talking about the constant. Let's do a review problem with our guess and check method. So if we had x squared minus 4x minus 21, well, I know I'm looking for something in this form, right? A binomial times a binomial. Well, x squared, the only thing that could multiply to be x squared is x times x. So I've got an x and an x. Now negative 21, well, let me think about positive 21. I could do 1 times 21, or I could do 3 times 7. So since it's negative, I actually have 4 different options. I could have a negative 1 and a positive 21. I could have the inverse of that, or I could have negative 3 positive 7, or positive 3 negative 7. All right, so all of those multiply to be negative 21. Those are our only 4 options that could work for this. But which one of them is going to add to be negative 4? Well, 21 and 1 is clearly too big. So if I want it to be a negative number, I need my negative to be larger than my positive. So it must be 3 and negative 7, because 3 minus 7 is negative 4, right? 7 minus 3, that's a positive 4. That's why that one doesn't work. So this is x plus 3 times x minus 7. There's our factored form. And we could multiply that to check it out. Right? X times x is x squared. X times 7 is negative 7. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. There is our trinomial that we started with. That's how we know we have the correct answer. Here's the thing. This problem has an a value of 1. So when the a value is 1, the process has a limited number of options because all we're thinking about is multiplying to be that c value. Sometimes we have problems where the a value isn't 1, like this problem here. And when the a value isn't 1, it increases the number of options that we have. So if I'm thinking about this problem, 8x squared plus 10x plus 3, I'm still going to do my guess and check. So I'm still going to do, here's my form, right? I need something that in this factored form. So if I think about my options, to get 8x squared, I actually have quite a few options here. I could do 1 times 8. I could do 2 times 4. All right. So I have a couple different options. And then to get 3, well, the only way to multiply to be 3 is 1 and 3 or negative 1 and negative 3. But since both the signs are positive, I know that this isn't an option. So I know that I have a 1 and I know that I have a 3. All right, so let's list all of the different possibilities here just so you can see everything we have to choose from. We could have 1x plus 1 and an 8x plus 3. We could flip that around and have an 8x plus 1 and a 1x plus 3. Or we could have 2 and 4. Maybe we have 2x plus 1 and 4x plus 3. Or maybe we have 4x plus 1 and 2x plus 3. Those are the 4 different possibilities we're looking at. So how do we decide? Because all of these multiply to be 8x squared and all of these add to be 3, but only one of these, I apologize, I said that incorrectly. All of these multiply to be 8x squared and multiply to be our constant of 3, but only one of them is going to add to be 10x. So we have to do our FOIL. We have to multiply to figure out which one of these would work. All right, so here's my x times 8x is 8x squared, like we said. Then we'd have x times 3 is 3x. 1 times 8x is 8x. 1 times 3 is 3. This is adding to be 3x plus 8x is 11x. That's not what we're looking for. I know this is getting a little smushed here. Let me zoom in. So now I'm going to multiply the next one. So 8x times x is my 8x squared. 8 times 3 is 24. 24 is pretty big. I don't think this one's going to work. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 3 is 3. 24x and 1x is 25x. We're looking for 10x. That's way too big. All right, next one, 2x times 4x. There's my 8x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 1 times 4x is 4x. 1 times 3 is 3. 6x and 4x, that's 10x. So this must be our answer. Just to show you that's the only option that works, let's do that last one just to make sure. 4x times 2x is 8x squared. 4x times 3 is 12x. 1 times 2 is 2x. 1 times 3 is 3. 12x and 2x is 14x. That one doesn't work. The only one that worked, right, that matched our trinomial is 2x plus 1 times 4x plus 3. There's our factored form. So there's a lot of different possibilities, and the way you factor is just working through them all. And the more you practice, the easier it will get. Let's do a couple more here. So factoring this trinomial, 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. All right, well, I know it's going to be in this form. 2x squared, well, to multiply to be 2, it's a 2 and a 1. That's all it is. So one of these is going to be 2x, the other is going to be 1x. Multiplying to be 15, I could do 1 times 15, or I could do 3 times 5. Okay, well, we got a few different options here then. We could do 2x plus 1 and x plus 15. We could flip that around and do 2x plus 15 and x plus 1. We could do 2x plus 3 and 1x plus 5, or we could do 2x plus 5 and 1x plus 3. All right, trial and error, here we go. So I'm only trying to add to be 11x, and since everything's positive, I don't really think 1 and 15 is going to work. I think that's going to be too big. Because if I look at just the middle terms here, I'm going to end up doing 2x times 15, which is 30x. 30x and x, that's 31x. That's way too big. Same thing here, I'm going to get a 2x plus a 15x, that's 17x, that's too big. So I'm reasoning through it. So if I can do that in my head, I don't have to write it down. It just saves me a little bit of time. That's what we're saying that you're going to get when you get more proficient with it. Some of this you'll be able to reason in your head. If you need to write it down, that's awesome, that's great. Of course, do that. But if you don't need to write it down, then that's also perfect. So let's try these last two, figure out which one is going to work here. Well, 2x times x, that's my 2x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. And then 3x, I don't think this one's going to work. I think 10x and 3x makes this 2x squared plus 13x plus 15. I'm looking for 11x. Well, it's got to be that last one, but let's prove it. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 3 is 15. Well, 6 and 5, there's my 11x. 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. So this is our answer. This is our factored form, because that multiplies to be that original trinomial. All right, let's do a couple more, but let's do some with some negatives in here. Okay, we'll do these last two. So we have 9x squared minus 16. This one looks a little funny, doesn't it? Because it's only got 2 terms instead of 3 terms like we're used to. So this is actually the same as thinking about 9x squared plus 0x minus 16. Because if I think about my standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, this had an x squared term and it had a constant, but it didn't have a x term. So I knew that that middle bx term was missing. Okay, and our number for missing or for nothing is 0. All right, so let's think about the options here. We're still going to do this the exact same way. We want something that's going to multiply to be 9x squared. Well, we could do 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. Okay, and then we want something that's going to multiply to be negative 16. Okay, well, I need a negative times a positive then in order for it to multiply to be a negative number. So I could do 1 and 16, 2 and 8, or 4 and 4. And again, one of these would be negative, so that doubles my options. Well, this would be the same, right? Negative 4 and negative 4. Okay, so I need something that's going to cancel out to 0 here. All right, let's just start trying some of these. If I do my 1x let this be my 9x. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to start with 2, 8 because I can. And see if I can kind of reason myself through here. So let's see. My 1x times 9x, there's my 9x squared. 1x times 8 is 8x. 2 times 9 would be negative 18x. Negative 2 times 8 is my negative 16. So those first terms are working out. But 8 minus 18 is negative 10x. Negative 10x, and I want it to be 0x. If I think about adding or subtracting to get 0, that's only going to happen if we have the same number, isn't it? Right? So I would have to have had like 8x minus 8x to get 0, or like negative 18x plus 18x to get 0. So I'm trying to find something that'll give me the same numbers for my x terms. What do I think would work there? Well, if I'm thinking about having the same numbers, let's try those options that have the same numbers. I have a 3 and a 3 and a 4 and a 4. So I'm going to let this be 3x and this be 3x. And I'm going to let one of these be negative 4 and the other be positive 4. And it doesn't matter which is which, right? Because if I switch my positive and negative around, I still end up with a 3x and a positive 4 and then a 3x and a negative 4. So it didn't matter which one was where. All right, moment of truth. 3x times 3x, here's my 9x squared. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. 4 times 3 is a positive 12x. 4 times negative 4 is a negative 16. A negative 12 and a positive 12, there's my 0. That's why it canceled out, right? Because we were able to get something minus itself. 9x squared minus 16. So our answer is 3x plus 4 times 3x minus 4. Notice how I was able to reason through it, so I didn't have to try all of these different options. All right, let's do one more with a negative, and then we'll call it good for this video. 8x squared plus 2x minus 3. All right, well, here we go. It'd be a good idea to pause and try this one for yourself. Thinking about 8x squared, I could do 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. And then negative 3, I actually have two options for negative 3. I could do 1 and negative 3, but I could also do a negative 1 and a positive 3. Okay. Well, here we go. I only have a 2 in the middle here. I have a 2 in the middle. If I'm going to multiply and end up with a 2, I think 8 seems kind of big. So I'm going to start with my 2 and 4. I'm going to start with my 2 and 4 just because, 8 seems kind of big to start with when I'm also looking at 1 and 3. Well, I got a couple different options here. I have this, but I also have this. And now we try. Okay. 2x times 4x, 8x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 1 times negative 4 is, negative 1 times positive 4 is negative 4x. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 6 minus 4 is 2. Look at that. First try I got it. Sometimes you get lucky. So our answer, we don't even need to multiply this one out. Provided we multiplied it correctly, which I think we did a good job. Our answer is 2x minus 1 times 4x plus 3. There is our factored form of this trinomial. So again, when you're factoring, it's reverse multiplication. You always want to factor out that GCF first. None of these had a GCF. And you're just doing guess and check. So you think about all the possibilities and then you multiply until you figure out what works. And that's factoring.